Hey guys, Granditamias here, and welcome back to another channel update. As per usual, I want to fill you in on some of my general thoughts about the state of the channel, upcoming video projects, and finally taking a look at some of your guys' comments I thought were worth addressing in detail. Since the last update, I've had a pretty good output of videos, but only 5 of them have been Alvin and the Chipmunks related. The rest are all dinosaur or Sonic related. Despite what I said in one of my recent Chipmunk collaborations, I don't want you guys to get the impression that I'm losing interest in Alvin and the Chipmunks. In fact, I just caught up with everything in Season 5, and a few of the most recent episodes were really good, like A Knight's Tale and Dream Bomber. But there are a couple more topics in relation to the wider Alvin and the Chipmunks franchise that I'd like to cover during the rest of this year and into next year. Other than 1 or maybe 2 Sonic video ideas, it's all just Chipmunk stuff in the pipeline, which I'll address later, but that may or may not change depending on whether some big news drops about one of the other franchises I've covered. And about those other franchises, it seems like Jurassic World has been a bust, as neither my preconceptions nor review videos for Dominion have crossed 100 views. And I only did one elaboration style video, which ended up being a false prediction. My trailer reactions didn't do so well either, so I'm debating whether or not I want to continue those. The next big movie releases I had in mind to do reactions for would be Transformers Rise of the Beasts and Dune Part 2. Oh yeah, speaking of Dune, I'm currently in the process of reading the first book, and so far I'm surprised how much Part 1 got accurate. When I read through the next few books, maybe I could branch out into doing Dune videos based on the new movie series, if enough of you want that and I can come up with some good topics. Getting back to Alvin and the Chipmunks though, I was thinking of doing another science-based elaboration on, get this, their teeth. Believe me, as stupid as it sounds, I do have enough material to push a video past 5 minutes, maybe more. As is tradition, at the end of this year, I will be doing a retrospective on the last of the live-action films that I have yet to cover, the 2007 film for its 15th anniversary. Recently, you guys really seem to be enjoying videos relating to the characterization, quality, and story trends throughout the current era of the franchise, so maybe I'll talk more about reboot potential, pointing out where the live-action films messed up on storytelling. Oh yeah, and how inconsistent Theodore has been. I really haven't done too many videos relating to specific characters, so Theodore definitely. Maybe one for Eleanor too, since there aren't that many episodes centered on her. Oh yeah, and I'm still planning out the iceberg video. I've been on and off with progress on that, so I'll set aside some time to really ramp things up. So yeah, I don't want to make any promises, but those are my current plans. However, since classes are in full swing again for me, I may need to take some time off to get those prepared, so don't panic if you don't hear from me for the next month or so. I'll still try to be active on Twitter and Discord, so if you don't already follow me on those, use the links in the description. Alright, now let's get to the comments. Kitley Kaplinger29 says, "Hey, I got a question. What's your favorite version of Alvin and the Chipmunks of all time?" And, this is kind of a hard question, because I think that they're all the best in their own special way, like the 60s series with its humor, the live-action films with their character designs, but I think I'd have to say the 80s cartoon. I think that had a little bit of everything, especially the family messages. I like the CGI series too, especially with the world that sets up, but again, I just really think that it has some untapped potential. Chemostar says, "I don't know why Keanu being name-dropped means that he can't be Shadow. The MCU does that with its actors, and no one questions it, like with Tony calling Thor Lebowski. As for this, I'm a huge Breaking Bad fan, but I really do think Keanu and Pattinson are better choices. Bryan Cranston for Gerald is perfect, though." Okay, so the primary reason I created that video about Aaron Paul voicing Shadow was because over the summer I had watched the entirety of Breaking Bad and the El Camino movie. I still have yet to watch Better Call Saul, though. But as for that MCU example you brought up, Tony calling Thor Lebowski, we never actually see footage of the Big Lebowski movie in the MCU, so in the MCU's version of that movie, the Big Lebowski might just be played by someone who doesn't look like Obadiah Stane. So that's the logic I'm applying to Keanu being out of contention to be in the Sonic movies, because we already saw footage of the movie Speed in the first Sonic movie. Amari says, "Do a video where you rate all 5 seasons." I would, but Season 5 has not ended yet, and PGS Entertainment does not like any ratings or reviews of the show for some reason. I really don't know why we can't make videos on that. It would give them free advertising, but PGS Entertainment just gotta be a stupid business. Hagfish says, "What if Alvin and the Chipmunks are not chipmunks or even rodents? I think their anatomy would classify them as primates rather than rodents, most likely a type of prosimian." Prosimians, for those of you who don't know, are the grouping of primates that includes the Slowlorus, the Tarsier, and all the lemurs. I was actually thinking of bringing up something tangentially related to this primate thing in my upcoming video about their teeth, and I really appreciate this scientific approach in that it's not just an alien or mutant theory. However, if the Alvin and the Chipmunks characters are Prosimians, then they have a very superficial resemblance to actual chipmunks, like mainly just with the stripe patterning and the big teeth. Plus, I really don't think it would make sense to call the franchise Alvin and the Chipmunks if they're actually Prosimians, because, well, I really don't think Ross Sr. back in the day would have thought about that. So yeah, I would have to disagree there, but as an aside, as for the mutant theory, I don't necessarily have a problem with anyone who thinks that they are mutants, but my issue with it is that, well, it limits the possibility of there being more chipmunk characters. Like, with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like, there are only 4 Ninja Turtles, and everything else, like, they're all just other kinds of mutants. In my opinion, them being a natural species offers more of an opportunity to go back in time and explore the history of their kind. With the alien theories, I am a little more relaxed about that, even though I do still disagree with it. But I guess if they wanted to, they could take a similar approach to the Sonic movies, where they've established that aliens like Sonic only superficially resemble Earth animals, even though they evolved like completely separate of all life on Earth, which the chances of that happening would be extremely slim. Emily Acorn says, 6 characters is actually a decent amount for having good romance. The problem is that half of them are siblings with each other, so many people resort to shipping siblings together like Alvin and Simon. I actually didn't know about Avon being a thing until you mentioned it briefly in one of your other videos. As a newer fan, it made me actually start screaming, what the heck? It's just so funny. The worst part is that it kind of makes sense. Okay, so I kept that Avon mention very brief in my video about why there should be other chipmunk characters, and I mean, like, I don't even like dwelling on it now, because it's just so, like, I understand why people ship it. There aren't any LGBTQ plus shippings officially in this franchise, and honestly, I think that should be a video of its own someday. But I have this opinion that I share with my friend Mosh Pos Ren, where we think that, like, the problem with Avon isn't that it's gay, the problem is that they're siblings, so it just makes it really, yeah, like I said, ugh. If they had more chipmunk characters that weren't related to either the Chipmunks or the Chipettes, there would be more opportunities for LGBTQ plus shippings. Oh, and the part about half of them being siblings with each other, I always found that weird because, yeah, I mentioned how there was an episode of the 80s cartoon where they did show each of them married in the future, like each of the Chipmunks to each of the Chipettes, and, like, I always found that weird, because wouldn't it be like marrying each other's in-laws? Yeah, I really find that weird, and that's why I'm honestly okay with calling the Chipmunks and Chipettes just friends. Monkiverse says, I think if they were to do another theatrical release, it would have to be a total reboot of the cinematic universe of the Chipmunks. It would have to have more grit, well-written characters on a believable level, not just shrug off what they did in the last live-action movies. They can talk, oh well, it needs to be deep and well-told. Well, Chris, I can always rely on you to give an interesting perspective, and this is something I'll definitely bring up when I eventually do my video about, like, reboot potential and how I think the franchise should be rebooted. But the part that stuck out to me most was the part about having more grit. Like, it's good to have some of that stuff, but I don't want it to be gritty in the sense that it has a lot of action violence and has very mature themes. Because this is still a kids franchise, and when I say that it should take itself more seriously, what I actually mean is that it should have more emphasis on its plot to maximize its effect. And the part about them talking, I don't think that particularly needs to be very deep or well told, even though I could explain that with my chipmunk evolution hypothesis, but at the end of the day, it is one of those things that I'm willing to suspend disbelief on. Daniel Diesel Goblin Jr. Lopez Solis says, they should make a live-action TV show based on the third film, Alvin and the Chipmunks Chipwrecked. How? Chipwrecked only took place over a couple of days, and there really isn't a lot of time to have all sorts of misadventures in between those events. Plus, Chipwrecked Island was destroyed, so I really don't think they're ever going to go back there if the movie franchise were to continue, which it's not, by the way. My good friend Jenna Matthews. They need to do less school plots and more action, and with the school, they need to give the plots more depth than just another Alvin struggles in school, but no one can do anything about it because it's funnier when he fails episode, and more Eleanor. And yeah, the school plots, that's another one of those things that's become repetitive as the show has gone on. A few of those episodes have been okay, but when it comes down to it, I'm just really not invested in those stories because of the lack of stakes besides, oh, Alvin gets a bad grade, or he doesn't get this reward or privilege from Dave. And like I said, I do want to make a video about Eleanor because this incarnation of the character is pretty hardcore. I feel like she works very well in those action-y type plots, and she's done a lot more detective work since the events of the episode Sherlock Chipmunk. And last but not least, Big Papa Muse says, Janice Carmen said that she had a huge project upcoming in an interview. What do you think it is? And this is referring to the Saturday Morning Cartoon Rewind interview from a few months back. And honestly, I don't really have any expectations whatsoever because the Bagdasarians have made announcements like this before and rarely ever follow through on them. Like, again, with the news about the franchise being sold, that's almost a year old now, and we haven't heard a peep since. If they're gonna scare us like that, they should have at least made our fears validated within a month. But if I had to guess what this project was, there really isn't anything to go off of, so it probably won't be a new movie because I've already explained several times why that's not possible. And I doubt it has anything to do with the current TV show either because, I don't think anything the show has done since its launch has been like a big project other than maybe the Christmas special. So yeah, I'm just not going to expect anything out of this, at least not for the very near future, because the franchise right now, I just don't see, it doesn't really have any avenues outside of the TV show, so I don't see them dropping anything between now and when it ends in 2025. But I could be wrong, and the benefit is that would end up being a big surprise. Anyway, I'm going to wrap things up here. If you have a question that you'd like to see answered in the next update video, please leave it in the comments, as well as any suggestions you have for future video topics. Don't forget that you can also follow me on Twitter and Discord, and with all that said, I hope you enjoyed, have a nice day, and thank you for your time.